Commanders fans are trying to reconcile some things. How is Sam Howell? We've talked about this a little bit. How is Sam Howell on pace to get sacked more than any other quarterback in NFL history? And let's see where the pass block grade is now for the Commanders.
Not bad.
The Commanders are now up to 8th best pass blocking grade in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Well, if you go through my Twitter timeline, there is a perfect example. I know we talked about this on the Monday show just a little bit. Your friend Bud Dupree gets blocked past the quarterback, right, by left tackle Cornelius Lucas. We had Cornelius Lucas with 0 sacks allowed in the game. But the guy that he was blocking, Bud Dupree, ends up with a sack on the play. How did that happen? Well, Sam Howell leaves a clean pocket, runs to the area where the left tackle aligns before the snap, which is not the place where the left tackle is blocking for. They're trying to block for a pocket. So he tries to scramble, whatever he does. Bud Dupree reads it, runs upfield, and sacks Sam Howell, which Bud Dupree is really good at. That's his best skill, is not necessarily winning blocks, but he's really good at cleanup sacks and pursuit and playing hard and motor. So that is a perfect example of a sack that is completely on the quarterback. It's not on the offensive line. It's not on the pass blocking. And there's a lot of those for Sam Howell. In addition to when the offensive line does give up pressure, it also usually turned into a sack. So you've got two things here. You have Sam Howell running into sacks on his own. And then you also have, when the offensive line loses, most of the time, or at a higher percentage than everyone else, it doesn't become a hurry. It doesn't become just a QB hit. It becomes a sack. So both of those things are working against Sam Howell right now, which are mostly a him thing. He's got the highest percentage of pressure that turns into sack, 33.7%, right? But he is not he also is, he's faced a lot of pressure, but a lot of it's
a lot on him.
Holding the ball at 3.38 seconds per drop back. I mean, there's a lot of things that are the quarterback. But as we said the other day, when he throws the ball, it is awesome. And if he could figure out how to cut down on the negative plays, Washington has something there.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at pressure and sacks specifically charged to the quarterback, right? 13 of his sacks have been charged to him this season, which is almost double the second highest player in the NFL, which is Justin Fields. I think the record is like 18 in a season, so he's on pace to like obliterate the record for like most sacks charged to a quarterback. He's been charged individually for 87 of their pressures. Total pressures, 87.
How many?
87. Oh, no, sorry, that's not being charged. That's the pressured dropbacks, the most pressured.
Oh, okay.
He's being charged for 21 of those 87, and 13 of them are sacks. So, I mean, he's been this guy. Like every single year in college and in the NFL and across at least three different offenses at this point, Sam Howell has been like the most sacked quarterback in the world. That's not a pass protection problem. This is Sam Howell. Like this is part of his game. The dude is a walking sack magnet.
Yeah, so I would just go check out my Twitter timeline, get me those impressions and stuff, right? But just go check it out because it's just a good example, right?
You want more bonus question before we leave? Somebody pitched this towards us. I can't remember where, so apologies for forgetting your name. But somebody mentioned that the late Dr. Eric Eager, formerly of PFF, now of the Sumer Sports Show, effectively suggested this concept of because of players like Sam Howell, right? And the fact that quarterback is essentially the guy that controls pressure and sacks and all this kind of thing. What you want to do from a team building point of view is find a quarterback that takes an abnormally low volume of sacks, right? A guy that's like on the Dan Marino side of the spectrum of never getting sacked, and target offensive linemen who specialize in run blocking and are effectively better at run blocking than pass protection, which is the opposite way I think most people do things now. Essentially saying that quarterback is the driver here, right? So if a quarterback is unusually good at that, you can afford to target guys that are unusually bad at that, but good at something else, and you have an overall edge. Thoughts?
That was Eric's theory, was to do that?
Yes. I think that was his suggestion of what teams should be doing now.
Yeah, I disagree. I think I'll talk to Eric offline. I think as an analytics community, sometimes people who are I think sometimes we latch on to one or two things rather than taking a holistic approach.
Okay.
Right? So historically, we've done this through the years. It's like, well, don't look at pressure grade, look at clean pocket grade, right? It's better. And that's the thing. And I think a lot of people are now latching on to just sack rate. That's it. That's the thing. Anthony Richardson's going to be the best QB in the draft just because of sack rate. Mm-hmm. That's it. And not looking at other things. But Jared Goff is actually a great example for all this, right? We talked about Goff a couple times here. Jared Goff is really good at not taking sacks. He is really good at this pressure to sack rate. He was number 2 in the league last year, lowest percentage, right behind Mahomes, lowest percentage of pressures that turned into sacks. Goff is great at that. But you still don't want him playing under pressure just because he's good at avoiding sacks. You don't want to live in a world where your quarterback's under pressure. So you don't, it's cool that you have a guy that doesn't take negative plays, but it's not fun if they're under pressure 35% of the time still. Or even a guy that prevents pressure, you still have to hit throws. Like the accuracy stuff still matters. So my suggestion is never lean on one or two numbers. You can never just say, well, I want this number over that number. Therefore, I'm going to order this Richardson and then next guy. Because Richardson was great at this number, Anthony Richardson. So I disagree with that premise because I think it relies too much on one factor when I think all of it needs to be taken into account. The same way, as someone else mentions in the chat, like Joe Burrow got sacked a ton, right? Your slider thing, right? Joe Burrow got sacked a ton and they went to the Super Bowl. That's because Joe Burrow throwing the ball was at 100 in the slider that year. Accuracy to all levels, he was unbelievable. If he got sacked 4 or 5 times a game, he offset it. Sam Howell's throw slider isn't that high yet. It's good. He throws the ball pretty well. He's not at Joe Burrow's level. He's not at the point where you can accept those sacks. Well, it goes the other way too. Well, here's this guy who never gets sacked. Well, he's not throwing the ball well enough. Like Andy Dalton's been good at this over the last couple of years. Baker Mayfield's been good at this year. He's not throwing the ball well enough. So you can't just look at one stat and then, build an entire strategy off of that, in my opinion. I think if that was the actual premise.
I think Mahomes is an interesting example because he is probably the greatest quarterback at that in the NFL at avoiding sacks. He's the new Dan Marino in that sense. The guy does not take sacks and is extremely good at avoiding them even when he's pressured. Having said that, when he's pressured this year, his passer rating is 69 and he has 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions. Even if that was your strategy of, hey, Mahomes is a magician, and he is, and he never takes those negative sack plays, he can make up for this, and we will focus on run blocking on the offensive line because there's an edge to be had there, and we'll live with being a sort of below average unit, therefore, because we have a quarterback that can offset that. I mean, it's a pretty big thing to offset. They focused on pass blocking more than run blocking, and he's still under pressure 33% of the time at the moment. And on those plays, his passer rating is 68, 69. So it's not good. If that's your strategy, even if you're getting an edge, you would need to be getting a huge edge on the run blocking side of that to offset that 33% of your dropbacks. The quarterback is playing like Blaine Gabbert.
So, and I also don't mean just get pass blocking. I am of the mind that run blocking is underrated for offensive linemen. It is an underrated thing because if we're going to say that's the driver for the run game, which people still run, you do want your O-lineman to run block. We're going to have that discussion with Fashanu, you like to call him? Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt next year. Come around draft time.
We need the late doctor needs to model this out. Find out where, how much is each one worth and where's the tipping point?
Why do you need him? I'm a model guy.
I mean, he has a PhD in mathematics.
Yeah.
You, not so much.
He hasn't created a draft model that's going to double your hit rate like I have.
I mean, you just put all your effort into that one model. I'm not sure you have,
Just tweak it a little bit.
Just tweak the draft model for
Change
this.
the inputs.
Okay.
Change the inputs.
All right.
The other thing I want to highlight, right, Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz got off to really good starts with outstanding offensive lines. And as the offensive line got worse from a pass pro standpoint, they got worse. Right. So it's not just QBs inviting pressure or inviting sacks or whatever. You still probably want a good offensive line. And I think I am of the mind, the Burrow, Penei Sewell versus Jamar Chase debate. I'm probably leaning closer to the offensive line and pass protection matters more than I would have said 3 or 4 years ago. So I've actually gone the other way from what Eric is saying. Look at C.J. Stroud this year. Names aside, they're pass protecting really well in Houston, and that's giving him an opportunity to succeed. I don't think he's the one necessarily leading to their pass blocking grades. I think they're playing really well in front of them. So.